What if I told you that the most successful people in the world, the ones building empires, maintaining peak health, and living with genuine peace of mind, are actually doing less than you? Not more hustle, not more tools, not more grinding at midnight pretending to be busy. Less, but sharper, but intentional. There are 7 specific mindsets that separate the truly exceptional from everyone else, and none of them require more willpower, more money, or more time. Stick with me until the end, because mindset number 4 alone might change the way you communicate forever. And if you want more content like this, hit that subscribe button right now. Let's get into it. Mindset number 1, minimalist work. Do less, achieve more. Let me ask you something honest. How many tabs do you have open right now? How many apps are sitting on your home screen that you might use someday? How many times this week did you feel busy, but at the end of the day, couldn't really point to what you actually accomplished? If that hits close to home, you're not alone. And here's the hard truth nobody wants to say out loud. Busyness is not productivity. It's a costume. The most exceptional people, the ones who seem to get more done with less stress, less chaos, and more clarity, they've cracked a code that most people overlook. It's not about working harder. It's not even about working smarter in the traditional sense. It's about working minimally and doing it with ruthless intention. The trap most people fall into. Modern work culture has glorified complexity. We're told to use more tools, track more metrics, attend more meetings, and stay always on. The result? People spend 60% of their energy managing their work instead of doing their work. Think about it. How much time do you spend organizing your to-do list app instead of actually doing the tasks on it? How often do you sit in a meeting that could have been a 2-line email? How many productivity systems have you set up that you eventually abandoned? This is what psychologists call productivity theater, the performance of being busy without the substance of real output, and it's draining you. What minimalist work actually looks like. High performers don't have fancier tools. They have fewer tools, and they use them deeply. They don't have a 47-item to-do list. They have 3 priorities for the day, maybe 5, and they knock those out before they do anything else. They don't multitask. Research from Stanford University has consistently shown that multitasking reduces efficiency by up to 40% and temporarily lowers your IQ more than sleep deprivation. The best workers go single task, single focus, single output, one thing at a time, all the way through. They don't fake urgency. Not everything is a fire. Not every email needs a same-day response. They've trained themselves to distinguish between what's urgent and what's truly important. And they've stopped letting the urgent eat the important alive. The framework, priority first work. Here's a simple system you can start today. No app required. Step 1, the night before list. Every evening before you close your laptop, write down the one most important task for tomorrow. Just one. That's your anchor. Everything else is secondary. Step 2, protect your first 90 minutes. When you wake up, before you check your phone, before you answer messages, before you scroll, spend your first 90 minutes on that one priority task. This is when your prefrontal cortex is at peak performance. Guard it like it's sacred, because it is. Step 3, apply the 80-20 rule ruthlessly. Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto observed that 80% of results come from 20% of efforts. Look at your work right now. What's that 20% that's actually moving the needle? Double down on that. Cut the rest or delegate it. Step 4, time block. Don't task list. Instead of a list of tasks, schedule blocks of time for specific work. A 90-minute focused block beats a 3-hour distracted session every single time. Use a simple calendar, paper or digital, and treat those blocks like meetings you can't cancel. Step 5, end the day with a hard stop. Minimalist workers don't work until they drop. They set a clear end time and honor it. Why? Because rest is part of the system. A depleted mind makes poor decisions. A rested mind solves problems faster. The stop is not laziness, it's strategy. The mindset shift that changes everything. The deepest layer of minimalist work isn't about tactics, it's about identity. Most people subconsciously believe that if they're not constantly busy, they're not working hard enough. And if they're not working hard enough, they don't deserve success. So they fill their days with noise to feel justified. Exceptional people believe the opposite. Your value is in your output, not your hours logged. A surgeon who performs one perfect operation is worth more than a surgeon who performs 10 sloppy ones. A writer who produces one great article beats one who churns out 10 forgettable ones. You are not paid for time. You are paid by life, by your career, by your own growth, for results. So the question to ask yourself every single morning isn't, what do I need to do today? It's, what is the one thing I can do today that will make everything else easier or unnecessary? That question, borrowed from Gary Keller's The One Thing, is worth more than any productivity app you'll ever download. Work minimally, work intentionally, and watch how much more you become. Mindset number 2, minimalist living. Own less, live more. Here's a question that might make you uncomfortable. When was the last time you looked around your living space and felt genuinely calm? Not overwhelmed by clutter, not mentally cataloging things you need to fix, clean, or organize. Just calm. For most people, that feeling is rare. And the reason isn't that they're lazy or messy by nature. It's that somewhere along the way, they bought into a story that more is better. More clothes mean more options. More stuff means more security. More purchases mean more happiness. But the data, and more importantly, the lived experience of some of the world's highest performers tells a completely different story. The hidden cost of stuff. Every object you own has a price tag you never see on the receipt. It costs you attention. Every piece of clutter in your environment is a tiny silent demand on your cognitive bandwidth. Your brain is constantly, subconsciously processing your surroundings. And when your surroundings are chaotic, your thinking becomes chaotic too. This isn't philosophy, it's neuroscience. A landmark study from Princeton University found that physical clutter competes for your attention and significantly reduces your ability to focus and process information. Your environment doesn't just reflect your mental state, it actively shapes it. Now, think about the closet stuffed with clothes you haven't worn in 2 years, the kitchen drawer that won't fully close, the garage you can't park in, the phone with 200 apps and 4,000 unread notifications. Each of these isn't just a physical mess, it's a mental tax you're paying every single day. What minimalist living actually looks like. Let's be clear about something first. Minimalist living is not about living like a monk in a white room with one chair and a single plant. That's an aesthetic choice, not a philosophy. True minimalist living is about intentionality. It means keeping what serves you and releasing what doesn't, in your home, your wardrobe, your schedule, and your spending habits. Look at some of the most effective people in the world. Barack Obama, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg. They've all been known for wearing nearly the same outfit repeatedly. Was it because they lacked creativity? Absolutely not. It was because they understood something most people don't. Decision fatigue is real, and every small decision you make drains the mental energy you could be using for things that actually matter. When you simplify your wardrobe, your morning routine, your living space, you're not giving things up. You're buying back mental clarity. The framework. Simplify in 4 areas. Area 1, your space. Go through one room at a time, not all at once. That's overwhelming. Ask yourself one question about each item. Does this actively add value to my life, or am I just keeping it out of habit or guilt? Use the classic keep, donate, discard method. Be honest. That treadmill you've used 4 times in 3 years? The stack of books you'll definitely read someday? Let them go. Give them to someone who will actually use them. Your space will breathe again, and so will you. A clean, intentional space isn't a luxury. It's a performance tool. Area 2, your wardrobe. You don't need to wear the same thing every day, but you do need to stop owning things that confuse you every morning. Build a capsule wardrobe, a small collection of versatile, high-quality pieces that work well together. Prioritize comfort, fit, and function over trends. Fast fashion is cheap upfront and expensive long-term. In money, in time, and in mental energy spent figuring out what to wear. Invest in fewer, better things. Area 3, your spending. Here's a reframe that changes how you see money. The best purchases are the ones that buy back your time. Paying for grocery delivery so you get 2 hours of focused work back? Worth it. Hiring someone to deep clean your apartment once a month so you're not spending your Sunday exhausted and resentful? Worth it. Buying a quality coffee maker so you stop waiting in line every morning? Worth it. The worst purchases are the ones that create more problems, more maintenance, more storage, more complexity. Before you buy anything, ask yourself, will this simplify my life or complicate it? That one question will save you thousands of dollars and dozens of hours per year. Area 4, your digital space. Your phone is an extension of your living environment, and for most people, it's the most cluttered room in their life. Audit your apps. Delete anything you haven't used in 30 days. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Move social media apps off your home screen. If you want to use them, you should have to go looking for them. Organize what's left into 2 or 3 folders, maximum. A decluttered phone isn't just cleaner, it's fundamentally less addictive. Because most of what keeps you scrolling is algorithmic noise designed to capture your attention, not serve your life. The deeper truth about owning less. There's a psychological phenomenon called the endowment effect. Once we own something, we tend to overvalue it simply because it's ours. This makes it hard to let go, even when something no longer serves us. We hold on to old clothes, old habits, old relationships, old identities, not because they're good for us, but because letting go feels like losing a part of ourselves. But here's what the most intentional people understand. You are not your stuff. Your value doesn't live in your wardrobe, your apartment, or your collection of things. It lives in your clarity, your energy, your focus, and your relationships. When you own less, you are more present, more focused, more free. The goal of minimalist living isn't emptiness, it's spaciousness. Room for what truly matters to show up, take root, and grow. Own what serves you, release what doesn't, and watch how much lighter and more powerful your life becomes. Mindset number 3, minimalist emotions. Feel it, process it, move on. Let me paint a picture you might recognize. Something goes wrong, a deal falls through, a relationship hits a wall, a project you worked hard on gets criticized, or someone says something that cuts deeper than it should. And instead of dealing with it and moving forward, you spend the next 3 days replaying the moment on loop. You vent to everyone who will listen. You lose sleep. You lose focus. You lose days of your life to an event that lasted maybe 5 minutes. Sound familiar? This is what unmanaged emotional living costs you, and most people are paying this price every single week without realizing how much it's compounding against them. The highest performers in the world aren't emotionless. They're not cold, robotic, or detached. In fact, many of them feel things deeply. The difference is they've mastered something most people never learn: how to feel an emotion without being controlled by it. That is the essence of minimalist emotions. Why emotions are expensive when left unmanaged. Your emotional state is the operating system your brain runs on. When that system is cluttered with unresolved frustration, lingering resentment, chronic anxiety, or habitual negativity, every other function runs slower. Your decision-making gets cloudy, your creativity dries up, your relationships suffer, your energy drains before noon. Psychologist Lisa Feldman Barrett, one of the world's leading emotion researchers, describes emotions not as automatic reactions that happen to us, but as predictions your brain constructs based on past experience and current context. This means emotions aren't fixed. They're not inevitable. They are, to a significant degree, learnable and manageable. This is incredibly empowering because it means you are not a passive passenger in your emotional life. You are, with practice, the driver. The problem with emotional venting. Here's something that might go against what you've been told. Venting doesn't help as much as we think it does. Conventional wisdom says, let it out, talk about it, express your frustration, get it off your chest. And while there is some value in acknowledging emotions rather than burying them, research from psychologist Brad Bushman at Ohio State University shows that excessive venting, replaying negative events, retelling the story repeatedly, dwelling in the feeling, actually amplifies negative emotion rather than releasing it. Every time you retell the story of what went wrong, your brain re-experiences the emotional charge of that event. You're not processing it, you're rehearsing it. You're making the neural pathway deeper, the emotion stronger, the story more permanent. Minimalist emotional processing works differently. It says acknowledge, understand, and redirect. The framework, the 3-step emotional reset. Step 1, name it without judgment. The moment you feel a negative emotion rising, frustration, embarrassment, anxiety, anger, pause and name it clearly. Not, I feel bad, but I feel disappointed, or I feel threatened, or I feel disrespected. This practice, called affect labeling, has been shown in neuroscience research to reduce the intensity of the amygdala's response, your brain's emotional alarm system. Simply naming what you feel with precision begins to regulate it. Don't judge yourself for feeling it. Emotions aren't character flaws, they're data. The feeling is information. It's telling you something about your values, your needs, or your environment. Receive the information. Don't become the information. Step 2. Ask one clarifying question. Once you've named the emotion, ask, what is this emotion telling me? And what, if anything, can I actually do about it? This single question performs a critical function. It redirects your brain from rumination to problem solving. Rumination keeps you stuck in the past, asking, why did this happen to me? Problem solving pulls you into the present, asking, what can I do now? If there's something actionable, do it. Have the conversation, fix the mistake, set the boundary, take the step. If there's nothing you can do, let it go. Not because the situation doesn't matter, but because suffering over the unchangeable is a choice, and it's one you don't have to make. Step 3. Redirect your energy deliberately. After naming and clarifying, consciously redirect your attention to something productive. Not to suppress the emotion, you've already acknowledged it, but to ensure it doesn't colonize your entire day. Go for a walk, hit the gym, write in a journal for 10 minutes and then close it. Call someone who energizes you rather than someone who will help you spiral. Do one focused hour of meaningful work. Motion breaks rumination. The fastest way out of a negative emotional loop is deliberate forward movement. The discipline of not complaining. One of the most underrated habits of emotionally minimalist people is this. They don't complain. Not because their life is perfect, not because nothing bothers them, but because they've recognized that complaining serves almost no useful function. It doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't make you feel better long term, and it slowly trains your brain to scan for what's wrong rather than what's workable. Try this experiment. For 1 full week, catch yourself every time you're about to complain, to a friend, on social media, in your own head, and replace it with either a solution-focused thought or silence. The shift in your mental energy by day 7 will be noticeable. This isn't toxic positivity. You don't have to pretend everything is fine. You just stop giving your energy to narrating what's wrong and start directing it toward making things right. The long game of emotional minimalism. Here's what nobody tells you about emotional regulation. It compounds. Every time you process a difficult emotion cleanly, without drama, without excessive venting, without days of rumination, you build a slightly stronger emotional foundation. Over months and years, this compounding effect creates what looks to outsiders like unshakable confidence, calm under pressure, and resilience in the face of setbacks. It's not that exceptional people never get knocked down. It's that they've built the internal infrastructure to get back up faster, with less friction, less collateral damage, and more forward momentum. Minimalist emotions don't mean living without feeling. They mean feeling fully, and then choosing, deliberately and consistently, to keep moving. Feel it, name it, redirect it, and never let a passing emotion make a permanent home in your most valuable real estate, your mind. Mindset number 4, minimalist communication. Say less, mean more. Think about the last truly memorable conversation you had. Chances are it wasn't memorable because the other person talked the most. It wasn't because they filled every silence, jumped from topic to topic, or had the loudest opinion in the room. It was memorable because they said something precise, something that landed with weight, clarity, and intention, something that made you stop and think. Now contrast that with the kind of communication that dominates most workplaces, social circles, and even personal relationships. Endless small talk that goes nowhere, meetings that could have been emails, people talking at each other rather than with each other, and conversations filled with noise but empty of substance. We live in a world that rewards volume. Post more, talk more, share more, comment more. But the people who actually move rooms, close deals, lead teams, and build deep relationships, they've learned the counterintuitive truth. The less you say, the more power your words carry. That is minimalist communication. Why most people over-communicate. There are two deep psychological reasons why people say more than they need to. The first is insecurity. When we're not confident in our ideas, we over-explain them, adding qualifiers, caveats, context, and justifications, hoping that sheer volume will make the point feel more valid. We ramble because we're afraid silence will be interpreted as incompetence. The second is social anxiety. Many people fill silence with words simply because silence feels uncomfortable. They talk to manage awkwardness, to seem engaging, to avoid being perceived as cold or disinterested. So they talk about the weather, about what someone else said, about something they saw online. Not because it adds value, but because it fills the void. Both of these habits quietly undermine your credibility. Over time, people stop listening as carefully to someone who always has a lot to say, because they've learned that most of it doesn't require their full attention. But when someone speaks rarely and deliberately, people lean in. They pay attention. They take notes. The real cost of too much talk. Beyond credibility, excessive communication drains something even more precious: time and energy, yours and everyone else's. A 2019 survey by Doodle found that poorly structured, unnecessary meetings cost U.S. businesses over $399 billion per year in lost productivity. And that's just meetings. Factor in unnecessary Slack threads, email chains with 12 people copied on a 2-sentence question, and hallway conversations that consume 20 minutes and produce 0 decisions. And you start to see communication as one of the biggest unexamined energy leaks in modern life. Minimalist communicators don't participate in noise. They contribute signal. What minimalist communication actually looks like? It looks like the person in the meeting who sits quietly through the first 20 minutes, listening, processing, taking in the full picture, and then speaks once, clearly, and shifts the entire direction of the conversation. It looks like the manager whose feedback emails are never more than 3 sentences long. But those 3 sentences are so precise and actionable that the recipient knows exactly what to do next. It looks like the friend who, when you're venting about a problem, doesn't immediately jump in with their own story or offer unsolicited advice, but asks one perfectly timed question that helps you see your situation differently. It looks like the leader who, when asked a complex question in a high-stakes room, pauses for 3 full seconds before answering, because they're constructing a response worth giving, not just filling the air. The framework. 4 principles of minimalist communication. Principle 1, prepare before you speak. Before any important conversation, email, or presentation, ask yourself, what is the single most important thing I need the other person to understand or do? Start there. Build everything else around that core point, and ruthlessly cut anything that doesn't directly support it. Most people communicate in circles, arriving at the point only after a long warm-up. Minimalist communicators start with the point, then provide only the context necessary to support it. Think of it as bottom line up front, a communication principle used by military leaders and top executives alike. Principle 2, master the pause. Silence is not weakness. Silence is processing power made visible. Before responding, especially in emotionally charged or high-stakes conversations, take a breath. Let the other person's words fully land before you construct your response. This does 2 things. It ensures your answer is actually responsive to what was said, not just what you assumed they'd say. And it signals to the other person that you take their words seriously. In a world where everyone is waiting for their turn to talk, someone who actually listens before responding stands out immediately. Principle 3, eliminate filler language. Like, you know, kind of, sort of, basically, honestly to be honest. These verbal tics are the clutter of spoken communication. They dilute your message and signal uncertainty. Record yourself speaking for 5 minutes, in a meeting, on a phone call, or just talking through an idea. Then play it back. Most people are shocked by how much filler they use unconsciously. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it, and that awareness alone begins to clean it up. Replace filler with intentional silence. A pause is always more powerful than an Principle 4, stop gossiping and judging. This one is uncomfortable, but it's critical. A significant portion of daily conversation in most social and professional environments is gossip, talking about other people's choices, mistakes, relationships, and behavior. It feels bonding in the moment. It's actually corrosive over time. Here's why minimalist communicators avoid it entirely. What you say about others tells people more about you than it does about them. When you gossip, you're signaling that you're someone who will also talk about them when they're not in the room. You quietly lose trust, credibility, and depth of relationship. More practically, gossip is an enormous time and energy drain. Every minute spent analyzing someone else's life is a minute not spent building your own. The replacement habit? Curiosity over judgment. When you find yourself about to criticize or analyze someone else's choices, pivot to asking a genuine question instead. Conversations built on curiosity go deeper, last longer, and leave both people feeling better. The art of strategic silence. One of the most powerful communication tools available to you costs nothing and requires no skill to execute. Saying nothing at all. In negotiations, silence after an offer creates pressure that words never can. In conflicts, silence instead of a reactive retort often de-escalates more effectively than the perfect comeback. In leadership, a leader who doesn't react to every piece of news signals stability, and that stability is contagious. Warren Buffett has said that he thinks for months before speaking publicly about major decisions. Abraham Lincoln famously wrote angry letters and then never sent them. The discipline of not saying something is just as important as knowing what to say. The compound effect of better communication. Like all minimalist principles, this one compounds quietly over time. Speak with more precision for 6 months and watch what shifts. People start listening more carefully when you talk. Your ideas carry more weight. Your relationships go deeper faster. Your reputation as someone who is thoughtful, trustworthy, and clear becomes one of your most valuable professional and personal assets. Communication is the bridge between your inner world and everyone else's. Build it with quality materials, clarity, intention, honesty, and restraint, and it will carry more than you ever imagined. Say what matters, cut what doesn't, and let the quality of your silence speak just as loudly as your words. Mindset number 5, minimalist goals. Chase less, achieve more. Let me ask you something direct. How many goals did you set at the beginning of this year? 5? 10? Maybe you wrote a full list. Fitness, finances, relationships, career, side hustle, learning a new skill, traveling more, reading more, sleeping better, spending less time on your phone. And how many of those goals are you actually still actively pursuing right now? If you're being honest, probably 2, maybe 1, maybe none. This isn't a character flaw. This isn't laziness. This is the entirely predictable result of a goal-setting approach that is fundamentally broken. Almost everyone uses it. We've been taught that ambition means wanting more. More goals, more dreams, more targets. But the highest performers alive have quietly figured out something the self-help industry doesn't want you to hear. The secret to achieving more is wanting less, at least at any given time. That is the power of minimalist goals. Why too many goals destroy progress. Here's what actually happens in your brain when you set 10 goals simultaneously. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and sustained focus, has a finite capacity for what researchers call cognitive load. When you spread that capacity across 10 different objectives, each one gets roughly 10% of your mental bandwidth. That's not focus, that's fragmentation. And fragmentation kills momentum. Momentum is not just a motivational concept, it's neurological. When you make consistent progress toward a single goal, your brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter of reward and motivation. That dopamine reinforces the behavior, making you want to continue. It creates a positive feedback loop. Progress fuels more progress. But when your attention is divided across 10 goals, you rarely make enough visible progress on any single one to trigger that dopamine response. So you feel stuck. You feel like you're spinning your wheels. And eventually, you quietly abandon the goals. Not because they weren't important, but because the system you used to pursue them was designed to fail. The 1 to 2 goals rule. The most effective performers, elite athletes, world-class entrepreneurs, top scientists, award-winning artists, almost universally share one habit when it comes to goals. At any given time, they are in serious pursuit of only 1 or 2 things. Not because they lack ambition, precisely because they have it. They understand that a goal worth achieving deserves more than 10% of your attention. It deserves your primary focus, your best hours, your most creative energy. And you simply cannot give that to 10 things at once. Author Gary Keller calls this the one thing. The single most important objective that, if accomplished, makes everything else easier or less necessary. Naval Ravikant calls it one focus. The language varies. The principle is identical. Pick 1 to 2 goals per year. Give them everything. Then move to the next. How to choose the right goals. This is where most people get stuck. Not in the execution, but in the selection. With so many things competing for your attention and ambition, how do you decide what actually deserves the top slot? Use these 3 filters. Filter 1, the 10-year test. Ask yourself, will achieving this goal matter to me in 10 years? Many goals that feel urgent right now, getting more followers, hitting a short-term income target, finishing a project nobody asked for, fail this test completely. The goals that pass it tend to be the ones connected to your deepest values, your health, your craft, your relationships, your financial independence, your sense of purpose. Filter 2, the multiplier effect. Some goals, when achieved, make multiple other areas of your life better simultaneously. Getting physically fit improves your energy, your confidence, your discipline, and your mental clarity, all at once. Building a high-income skill opens financial doors that reduce stress across every other life domain. These are multiplier goals, and they deserve priority over siloed goals that only improve one narrow area. Filter 3, the honest desire check. Ask, do I actually want this, or do I want to want it? A lot of goals on people's lists are there because of social pressure, comparison, or a vague sense of obligation. You should learn to invest. You should start a podcast. You should run a marathon. But should, according to whom? Goals powered by genuine desire are sustainable. Goals powered by should collapse under the first serious obstacle. Be ruthlessly honest about which category yours fall into. The framework. Break it down. Show up daily. Once you've chosen your 1 to 2 goals, the execution strategy is elegantly simple, and it's the same one used by everyone from professional athletes to best-selling authors to Fortune 500 executives. Step 1. Define the goal in concrete, measurable terms. Vague goals produce vague results. Get healthier is not a goal, it's a wish. Run a 5K in under 28 minutes by September 1st is a goal. Save $10,000 by December 31st is a goal. Publish 1 long-form article per week for 6 months is a goal. Specificity creates accountability. Step 2. Reverse engineer it into daily actions. Work backward from the end goal to today. If you want to save $10,000 in 10 months, that's $1,000 per month, roughly $33 per day. What daily or weekly actions make that possible? If you want to run a 5K in under 28 minutes by September, what does your weekly training schedule look like starting now? Break the goal down until you have a daily non-negotiable, a small, specific action you commit to doing every single day, regardless of motivation. Step 3. Track streaks, not outcomes. This is a subtle but game-changing shift. Instead of measuring how close you are to the finish line every day, which can feel discouraging when you're early in the process, measure your consistency streak. Did you do the daily action today? Yes or no? That's it. Jerry Seinfeld famously used this method when building his comedy career. He called it, "Don't break the chain." Every day he wrote jokes, he put an X on the calendar. The goal wasn't to write great jokes. The goal was to never break the chain of X's. The great jokes were an inevitable result of the consistency. Step 4. Review weekly, adjust monthly. Every Sunday, spend 10 minutes reviewing the week. Did you do the daily action? If not, why not? And what needs to change? Every month, do a slightly deeper review. Is the goal still the right goal? Is the approach working? What's one adjustment that would make the next month more effective? This regular review loop keeps you honest, keeps you adaptive, and keeps you from grinding in the wrong direction for months before realizing it. The underrated power of patience. Here's the part of goal achievement that doesn't get enough airtime. Most meaningful goals take longer than you think, and that's not a problem. It's the point. We live in a culture obsessed with speed. Quick wins, life hacks, 30-day transformations. And while short-term progress is real and valuable, the goals that genuinely change your life, building deep expertise, creating financial freedom, transforming your health, and building a meaningful creative body of work. These unfold over years, not weeks. The minimalist goal approach is built for this reality. When you're only pursuing one or two things at a time, you're not racing, you're building. Each day's effort is a brick in a structure that will eventually be too solid to ignore by your industry, your community, and yourself. Patience isn't passive. It's the active, daily choice to trust the process when the results aren't yet visible. It is, arguably, the single most underrated competitive advantage in a world full of people who quit when things get slow. What you're really choosing when you set goals. Here's the deepest truth about minimalist goals, and it has nothing to do with productivity. When you choose one truly important goal and commit to it fully, you're not just choosing an outcome. You're choosing who you're becoming in the process. The discipline, the consistency, the resilience, the self-knowledge you build while chasing one meaningful goal with everything you have, that's the real prize. The goal is the vehicle. The person you become while pursuing it is the destination. Choose fewer goals. Pursue them completely. Show up daily, without exception. And let the quiet, compounding power of consistency take you further than 100 half-pursued dreams ever could. Mindset 6, minimalist energy. Protect your focus. Reclaim your life. Here's a scenario that probably sounds familiar. You wake up in the morning with genuine intentions. Today is going to be productive. Today you're going to make real progress. You reach for your phone just to check the time. And 45 minutes later, you're watching a video about something you don't care about, scrolling through news that makes you anxious, and reading an argument in the comment section between two strangers you'll never meet. You haven't even gotten out of bed yet, and somehow you're already exhausted. By noon, you've been notified, pinged, tagged, and interrupted so many times that your brain feels like a browser with 60 tabs open. Everything running, nothing loading properly. By evening, you're too mentally drained to do the things that actually matter to you. Exercise, read, have a real conversation, work on something meaningful. And then you do it all again tomorrow. This is not a time management problem. It's an energy management problem. And it is, without question, one of the most urgent crises of modern life, even though almost nobody is talking about it with the seriousness it deserves. Your attention is the most valuable asset you own. Not your time, not your money, not your network. Your attention. Time is fixed. Everyone gets 24 hours. But attention is the quality of those hours. Two people can spend the same amount of time on the same task and produce wildly different results, because one brought focused attention to it, and the other brought a fragmented, distracted version of themselves. Here's what makes this so critical right now. We live in what author Tim Wu calls the attention economy, a system where some of the most sophisticated technology ever built, backed by billions of dollars and thousands of engineers, has been specifically designed to capture, hold, and monetize your attention as efficiently as possible. Every notification, every infinite scroll, every autoplay video, every red notification badge. These are not accidents of design. They are precisely engineered triggers built to hijack your dopamine system and keep you engaged as long as possible, regardless of whether that engagement serves your life in any meaningful way. Understanding this isn't paranoia, it's literacy. And once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it, which is the first step to reclaiming what's yours. What minimalist energy actually means. Minimalist energy management is the practice of deliberately designing your daily environment and habits to protect your cognitive resources so that your best mental energy goes to what matters most, not to what screams loudest. It operates on a simple principle. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And in the modern world, your cup gets emptied faster than ever, not by hard work, but by distraction, overstimulation, and the constant low-grade anxiety of being always connected and never fully present. The people who sustain high performance over long periods of time, not just for a week or a month, but for years and decades, are not the ones who work the hardest. They're the ones who manage their energy the most intelligently. The 4 pillars of minimalist energy. Pillar 1, ruthlessly simplify your phone. Your smartphone is the single greatest source of unmanaged attention drain in most people's lives. Not because the device is inherently bad, but because the default settings of virtually every app on it are optimized for your engagement, not your well-being. Start with a full audit. Go through every app on your phone and ask one question. Does this app serve my goals and values, or does it primarily consume my time and attention without giving meaningful value in return? Delete what doesn't serve you. This is harder than it sounds because of the sunk cost and the fear of missing out. But remember, every app you delete is attention you're reclaiming. For apps you keep, turn off all non-essential notifications. Every notification is an interruption. And research from the University of California, Irvine found that after a single interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully return to deep focus. If you receive 30 notifications a day, which is conservative by modern standards, the math on what that costs you in lost focus time is staggering. Move social media apps off your home screen. Put them in a folder on the last page behind other apps. Make them require effort to reach. This one friction point alone has been shown to reduce daily social media usage by 20 to 30%. Consider a phone-free morning routine, at least 30 to 60 minutes after waking before you check anything. This single habit protects your most cognitively fresh hours from being colonized by other people's agendas. Pillar 2, replace consumption with creation. Here's a pattern that defines low-energy living, spending the majority of your leisure time consuming, scrolling, watching, listening passively, and very little time creating or developing. Consumption is easy. Creation is hard. And your brain, like any system, follows the path of least resistance unless you deliberately redirect it. The shift from consumer to creator doesn't require dramatic lifestyle changes. It starts with one simple daily trade. Replace 30 minutes of passive scrolling with 30 minutes of reading a book. That's it to start. Reading, particularly long-form books rather than articles or social posts, does something social media fundamentally cannot. It builds your capacity for sustained linear thinking. It develops your vocabulary, your reasoning, your empathy, and your ability to hold complex ideas in mind long enough to do something useful with them. Over a year of reading 30 minutes daily, you'll finish 15 to 20 books. Over 5 years, that's a library of knowledge most people never build. From there, you can expand. Learn an instrument, write, build something, paint, code, cook seriously, train a skill. Any form of active, engaged creation replenishes cognitive energy in a way that passive consumption never can. Pillar 3, move your body, protect your sleep. This might sound like basic health advice, and it is. But it belongs in a conversation about minimalist energy because physical energy and mental energy are not separate systems. They are the same system. Exercise is not just about physical fitness. It is one of the most powerful cognitive enhancers available to human beings, without a prescription, without a cost, and without side effects. A 2018 study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that regular aerobic exercise increases the size of the hippocampus, the brain's memory and learning center, and significantly improves executive function, focus, and mood regulation. You don't need a complex fitness program. 30 minutes of moderate movement, a brisk walk, a run, a bike ride, a gym session, 5 days a week is enough to produce measurable cognitive benefits. Start there. Sleep is non-negotiable. Dr. Matthew Walker, neuroscientist and author of Why We Sleep, describes sleep deprivation as one of the most underestimated performance killers in modern society. After 17 to 19 hours without sleep, your cognitive performance is equivalent to being legally drunk. And yet millions of people run chronically sleep-deprived and call it hustle. 7 to 9 hours of sleep is not laziness. It is the biological foundation upon which every other performance habit is built. Protect it with the same seriousness you protect your most important work hours. Pillar 4, focus inward, not outward. Perhaps the most draining energy habit of all, and the most socially normalized, is the habit of constant comparison and external focus. Tracking what other people are doing, measuring your progress against theirs, consuming their highlight reels and feeling inadequate by comparison, following their drama, their opinions, their conflicts. Social media has made this habit almost unavoidable by default, but it is devastating to your energy, your focus, and your sense of self. The antidote is not indifference to others. It's a deliberate investment in your own inner world. Journaling, meditation, reflective walks, therapy, or simply spending time in silence. These practices build self-awareness, emotional regulation, and a stable internal compass that doesn't require constant external validation to function. When you know clearly who you are, what you value, and where you're going, other people's opinions, achievements, and drama simply stop mattering as much. Not because you become cold, but because you become grounded. And a grounded person is an energized person. Designing your energy environment. The most important insight in all of minimalist energy management is this: willpower is not the answer. Environment design is. Relying on willpower to resist your phone, avoid social media, or maintain good habits is a losing strategy because willpower is a finite resource that depletes with use. The better strategy is to design your environment so that the right behaviors are easy and the wrong behaviors require effort. Put your phone in another room at night, not on your nightstand. Keep a book on your pillow instead. Put a water bottle and your workout clothes next to your bed the night before. Delete the apps that drain you before the temptation to use them hits. Set your phone to grayscale mode. Research shows color displays are significantly more stimulating and addictive than grayscale ones. These small environmental adjustments require no willpower in the moment because the decision is already made. This is how minimalist energy management becomes sustainable, not through discipline alone, but through intelligent design. The quiet power of doing less, better. Here's the counterintuitive truth that ties this entire mindset together. The people who accomplish the most, who build the most, create the most, contribute the most, are rarely the ones doing the most things. They're the ones doing the right things with full energy, full attention, and full presence. Less noise, more signal, less consumption, more creation, less reaction, more intention. Protect your energy like the finite, irreplaceable resource it is. Because at the end of the day, your energy is not just what you use to work, it is what you use to live. Guard your attention fiercely, feed your mind deliberately, rest without guilt, and show up to every important moment as the fully charged, fully present version of yourself. Mindset number 7, minimalist relationships. Keep the right people, release the rest. We've arrived at the final mindset, and in many ways, it's the most personal one of all. Because we can talk about productivity systems, decluttered spaces, emotional regulation, and energy management, and all of those things matter deeply. But at the end of the day, when you look back on your life, what you'll remember most isn't how optimized your workflow was or how clean your apartment looked. You'll remember the people, the conversations, the connections that shaped you, challenged you, held you up when you couldn't hold yourself. Relationships are the substrate of a meaningful life. And yet, most people have never once stopped to intentionally examine theirs. They drift into friendships by proximity. They maintain relationships out of obligation or guilt. They keep people in their lives long past the point where those connections serve either person, out of loyalty to a history that no longer reflects who either of them has become. And they wonder why, despite being constantly surrounded by people, they so often feel profoundly alone. Minimalist relationships offer a different path, not a colder one, a cleaner one. Not fewer connections, but deeper, more intentional ones. Not isolation, but curation. The real cost of the wrong relationships. Here's something most personal development content glosses over. The people you spend time with are actively shaping who you are, whether you're conscious of it or not. This isn't motivational speak, it's social science. Psychologist David McClellan spent decades studying human behavior and concluded that your reference group, the people you most regularly associate with, determines as much as 95% of your success or failure in life. Nobel Prize-winning economist James Heckman found that social environment is one of the strongest predictors of long-term life outcomes. And perhaps most compellingly, Harvard's study of adult development, the longest study of human happiness ever conducted, found that the single greatest predictor of health, happiness, and longevity in old age was not wealth, not fame, not achievement. It was the quality of a person's close relationships. The people around you are not neutral. They are either pulling you forward or pulling you back. They are either expanding your sense of what's possible or quietly confirming your limitations. They are either adding energy to your life or draining it. This is not a harsh judgment. It's simply physics applied to human dynamics. The 3 types of people in your life. When you look honestly at your social circle, most people fall into one of three categories. Type 1, the energizers. These are the people who, after spending time with them, leave you feeling more alive, more hopeful, more capable. Conversations with them challenge your thinking, expand your perspective, and remind you of your potential. They celebrate your wins without jealousy and tell you hard truths without cruelty. They show up, not just when it's convenient, but when it matters. These relationships are rare. Protect them fiercely. Type 2, the neutrals. These are acquaintances, colleagues, and casual friends with whom you share pleasant but largely surface-level interactions. They're not harmful. They're not particularly nourishing either. They're simply part of the social fabric of your daily life. And that's fine. Not every relationship needs to be deep. Type 3, the drainers. These are the people who consistently leave you feeling worse after spending time with them. They complain constantly without ever seeking solutions. They compete with you rather than support you. They create drama, spread negativity, and seem to find comfort in your struggles rather than your success. Or more subtly, they simply hold a vision of you that is smaller than who you're becoming, and every interaction subtly reinforces that smaller version. Minimalist relationship management is essentially this. Invest deeply in Type 1, maintain Type 2 lightly, and have the courage to release Type 3. The hardest part? Letting go. Let's spend a moment here, because this is where most people get stuck. Releasing a draining relationship sounds simple in theory. In practice, it is one of the most emotionally complex things a human being can do, because most draining relationships aren't with strangers. They're with people we've known for years, people we grew up with, people we once loved deeply. People who, at some point in the past, mattered enormously. And so we stay, out of loyalty to a history, out of guilt, out of the fear that releasing them means we're cold, selfish, or somehow failing them. Here's the reframe that makes this easier. Releasing someone is not an act of cruelty. It can be an act of honesty. Staying in a relationship you've outgrown, one where the values no longer align, where the dynamic is consistently damaging, where both people are holding each other back rather than forward, doesn't serve either person. It keeps both of you in a version of yourselves that may no longer be true. You don't always need a dramatic confrontation. You don't always need to announce your departure. Sometimes minimizing a relationship simply means responding more slowly, investing less energy, declining more invitations, and letting the natural distance that comes from different paths do its quiet work. And sometimes, with truly toxic relationships, or ones that involve consistent disrespect, manipulation, or harm, a clear, firm boundary is not just appropriate, it is necessary. You are allowed to protect your peace. Full stop. The framework: building a minimalist social circle. Step 1. Do an honest relationship audit. Take a piece of paper and write down the 10 to 15 people you spend the most time with, in person, by phone, or even mentally, the people who occupy your thoughts most frequently. For each person, ask 2 questions. How do I consistently feel after spending time with this person? And does this relationship reflect and support who I'm becoming? Be honest, not harsh. Honest. This isn't about judging people's worth as human beings. It's about assessing the dynamic between you and whether it serves both of your growths. Step 2. Invest deeply in your core circle. Research by anthropologist Robin Dunbar of Dunbar's number fame suggests that human beings can maintain approximately 5 truly close relationships at any given time. Not 50, not 20, 5. These are the people you can call at 2 a.m., the ones who know your full story, the ones whose opinion of you actually matters. Most people spread their relational energy across dozens of surface-level connections and wonder why they feel lonely. Minimalist relationship thinking inverts this. Go deep with a few rather than wide with many. Schedule regular, intentional time with your core people, not just when it's convenient or when a crisis hits, but proactively, consistently, as a standing commitment. Deep relationships don't maintain themselves. They require investment. Step 3. Be intentional about who you add. As you grow in your career, your thinking, your values, your ambitions, be thoughtful about the new people you invite into your close circle. Ask yourself, does this person operate at a level I respect and aspire to? Do they challenge me constructively? Do they share core values around integrity, growth, and kindness? You don't need to be calculating about friendship. But you do need to be conscious. Because every person you welcome into your inner world brings their habits, their energy, their worldview, and their expectations with them. And over time, those things become part of the air you breathe. Step 4. Be the kind of person worth keeping. This is the part that gets left out of most conversations about relationship curation, and it might be the most important part of all. If you want to attract and keep high-quality, growth-oriented, genuinely kind people in your life, you have to be that person first. Show up consistently. Follow through on what you say you'll do. Celebrate others' wins without jealousy. Tell hard truths with kindness. Give without keeping score. Be someone whose inner circle is genuinely lucky to have them. Minimalist relationships aren't just about who you release. They're about who you become, so that the people worth keeping actually want to stay. The quiet gift of chosen solitude. One more thing, and this one often surprises people. Minimalist relationship thinking also means making genuine peace with time spent alone, not as a consolation prize for an empty social calendar, but as a deliberate, valued part of a well-designed life. The most self-aware, grounded, creatively alive people you'll ever meet share one quiet habit. They actively protect time for solitude. Not isolation, solitude. Time to think without input, to feel without distraction, to simply be without performing for anyone. In solitude, you hear your own voice most clearly, separate from the noise of other people's opinions, expectations, and needs. You discover what you actually think, what you actually want, what actually matters to you when no one is watching. And that self-knowledge becomes the foundation of every relationship you build, because you can only truly connect with others from a place of knowing yourself. The full picture. Step back for a moment and look at all 7 mindsets together. Minimalist work, minimalist living, minimalist emotions, minimalist communication, minimalist goals, minimalist energy, minimalist relationships. At first glance, they might seem like 7 separate ideas, but they're really one idea expressed in 7 different dimensions of life. And that idea is this: exceptional people don't try to do everything, have everything, feel everything, say everything, pursue everything, consume everything, and know everyone. They go deep rather than wide. They choose quality over quantity in every domain. They ruthlessly eliminate what doesn't serve them and pour everything they have into what does. This is not a philosophy of less for its own sake. It's a philosophy of intentionality, of choosing your life deliberately rather than letting it be chosen for you by algorithms, expectations, habits, and noise. The world will always offer you more tasks, more stuff, more drama, more content, more goals, more connections. The extraordinary choice, the one that separates truly exceptional people from everyone else, is the discipline to look at all of that abundance and say, no thank you, I know what I'm here for. Live with fewer but deeper relationships. Be the kind of person worth knowing. Protect your inner circle like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. And go build a life that, when you look back on it, you'll be genuinely proud of. So there they are, 7 minimalist mindsets that separate the truly extraordinary from everyone else. Work with focus, live with intention, master your emotions, communicate with precision, chase one goal relentlessly, protect your energy fiercely, and invest deeply in the people who truly deserve you. None of this requires more hustle. All of it requires more clarity. The question isn't whether these mindsets work. The question is, are you willing to do less so you can become more? If this video added real value to your life, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more content that actually moves the needle. Drop a comment below. Which of the 7 mindsets do you need most right now? I read every single one. See you in the next video.